All right, guys. So in this video, I'm going to go over the two examples that we discussed in class, which is rewriting formulas and equations. And I'm actually going to go ahead and go to page 28 of your textbooks. And we're going to go over examples 3 and 4, right? So example number 3, the book reads or says, solve 9x minus 4y equals 7. So solve 9x sorry about that. 9x minus 4y equals 7. So first thing we're going to do is we're going to solve for y. So these exercises are composed of two parts. One part is the fact where we're going to solve for y, and the other part is to find the value of y. Okay, so we're going to solve for y. Of course, whenever we do these exercises, you can always check your answer. I'm not going to do it per se, just so that I can, because the time constriction, but you do know that you can check your answer to see if this is correct. So if I'm going to solve for y, that means that I have to get rid of the 9x. Okay. Now I'm going to subtract by 9x. And why do I subtract by 9x? Because a common mistake is that people see this minus sign here and they'll just go ahead and add. We're not adding, we're subtracting, because the 9x is positive. So I need to do the opposite or use the opposite. And of course, the opposite of positive 9x is negative 9x, which is why I am going to subtract both sides by 9x, okay? Minus 9x. So this is going to cancel out here. And here, 9 and 9 cancel out. And let me erase this real quick. So there you go. Okay. And there's a minus here. And that leaves me with minus 4y minus 4y equals 7 minus 9x. So I'm almost done with my problem. I'm still missing one last thing. And what I'm going to do is actually just divide by negative 4. And the reason I'm going to divide by negative 4 is because I want to isolate my y. So that means that every term will now be divided by negative 4. Okay? Of course, the negative 4, which is beneath the variable, or this negative 4 is going to cancel out. And now y is going to be isolated. So that means that my final answer for the first part is y equals negative 7/4 negative 7/4. Negative 7/4 plus 9/4 x plus 9, plus 9/4 x. That's a pretty bad looking 9, but you guys get my drift. Okay, and 9/4 x. And why positive? Because these two, as you divide by -4, well, the negative and the negative, when I divide that, turns into a positive, okay? So that's why this is now 9/4 x. So I already solved for 9/4, or for y, excuse me, and I have my equation, but now the problem is asking me to find the value of y when x equals 5. So the second part of the exercise is to find the value of y when x equals -5. Okay, so we're going to find the value of y when x equals -5. And what that means is that I'm going to evaluate my expression. So I have my equation, my final equation, the one that I got from the first part, and I'm going to say y equals -7/4 plus 9/4. But instead of writing 9/4 x, we say times -5. And y times -5, because I want to know the value of y when x is -5. So what I'm going to do is the left-hand side of my equation is going to stay the same. So we're going to bring down the y. We're going to say y equals -7/4 So you can do this next step two ways. You can multiply 9 times -5 and get -45, which is the way your book did it. Or the way that I did it was I just brought down the plus sign, because remember that whenever you're subtracting, you're adding the opposite. So I just brought down the plus sign, and 9 times -5 is -45. And that would be -45/4. And a lot of people hate working with fractions, so they'll probably try to divide them and get decimals, but it's just going to complicate your exercise a lot more. If denominators are the same, which they are, all you have to do is just add and pass on your denominator. So y equals, and obviously because the denominator is 4, I move the denominator over to my final answer, and I have -7 plus -45, which is -52. So I can divide that, I can reduce that fraction or turn it into a whole number, and -52 divided by 4 is -13. So y equals -13. And that is the answer. And that's example number 3. So you'll see that these problems are divided into two parts. The first part, we'll call this part right here, part A, is to just solve for y. And then part B, which is down here, is to evaluate the expression given the number for x. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and erase this and then go to example number 4. Okay, so example number 4, which is also on page 28, says 2y plus xy equals 6. So 2y plus xy equals 6. So in this case, we look at 2y plus xy, and if we observe them, they're the result of a multiplication. They're both the result of each term multiplied by y. 2y is a result of 2 times y, and xy is a result of x times y, which means that In this part here, the distributive property was used. So I'm actually going to kind of work backwards, and I'm going to say, well, that means that 2 plus x, again, we're doing the same thing that we did in the other example. We're solving for y. We're just using a different method. And in fact, let me just write it down here. Let me write down here that we're solving for y, just in case you guys are wondering what's he doing. So we're solving for y, okay? So just to kind of take it from the top, this is my original equation, 2y plus xy equals 6. I want to solve for y. Now again, if I look at 2y, if I look at xy, they are the result of the multiplication of y times 2 and y times x. Okay, they are the result of the multiplication of y times 2 and y times x. So what we're going to do now is simply multiply, okay? So, or simply kind of work backwards and express this as a multiplication or as a distributive property, in which case all we did was just said 2 plus x and 2 plus y. And in order to get these results, I had to multiply that by y. And of course, equals 6. So, whenever you have a problem similar to this one, that means that you have to work backwards, okay? And what I mean by working backwards is observe the left-hand side, in this case, the 2y and the xy. Now, they're both the result of 2 multiplied by y and of x multiplied by y. And now, if I want to solve for y, what I need to do is divide by 2 plus x on both sides. Divide 2 plus x on both sides. So divide 2 plus x on both sides. 2 plus x. I went silent there for a minute. This is I'm concentrating on making this look decent. 2 plus x. Sorry for that. 2 plus x. So now I know that this is the same. So this is going to cancel out just like this. And y equals 6 over 2 plus x. So we did the first part of the problem, which was solving for y. Now we're going to do the second part of the problem, which I'm going to type in a minute. And the second part of the problem, and again, we'll call this part A. And the second part of the problem is to find the value of y when x equals -3. So all I'm going to do in that case is simply, x equals -3. X equals -3. So all I'm going to do now is simply just plug in -3 wherever we have an x. So that means that the problem is now going to be y equals, okay, y equals, now instead of writing 6 plus 2x, I'm going to say 6 over 2 plus -3. Okay, so y equals 2 plus -3, which is -1. Or yes, I'm sorry, 6 over -1, because 2 plus -3 is -1. And you divide 6 over -1, and your answer is y equals -6. And guys, you can check your answer by simply plugging in that number into your original equation. So if I wanted to see if this is correct, I could just take the 6 and plug it in here, and I would get, the value. And let me show you what I mean. So this is part B. Okay, so this is example. This is part B. But what I'm going to do now is I'm going to check. And I think I can actually do that on this side. I think I have enough space. So if I want to check, and I didn't do it in the previous example, but if you wanted to, you could check it as well. If I want to check to make sure that everything is done correctly, what I'm going to do is I'm going to plug in my answer, which in this case was -6, into my original problem. Okay, so again, you're just going to plug in where you can check your answer by simply plugging in what you got, right, into the original equation. So what I'm going to do is, if I know that the value of y is -6, what I'm going to do is then simply say 2 times -6, -6 plus x, which is what I don't know, times -6 equals +6. So I'm going to find the value of x, and then when I have the value of x, I can just simply plug in everything. So this is going to be -12, because 2 times -6 is -12. And then, of course, this is plus -6x or -6x, which is the same thing, because -6 times x is -6x. So plus -6x. If you wrote -6x, it's the same thing. It really will not make much of a difference. Equals 6. So, of course, I'm going to get rid of this. And if it says -12, I'm going to add 12. And then add 12 on this side. And then this side is going to cancel out. And that would leave me with -6. Because remember, this is plus -6. But since I cancel that out, I just have -6x equals 18. So I divide by -6 and then get the value of x, which is -3. So -6 and x equals -3. So if I'm the value of x, and I know the value of y. So now I can continue my checking process. So let me erase this side right here. And that way I have more space. So I'm still doing my check, guys, okay? Again, the check is simply to verify that everything that you did is okay. I'm not, it's just a way of making sure that your answers are good, all right? So let me continue the check. Now that I know the value of y, now that I know the value of x, I'm simply going to plug them into my original equation. So I'm continuing the check process, but I'm going to do it on this side. So now I'm going to say, well, 2 times negative 6 times negative 6, because that's what I got for y, plus negative 3, because that's what I got for x, times negative 6, which is the value that I got for y. And that this whole process, or this whole operation, is supposed to equal positive 6. Now we'll see if what we did is correct. So 2 times negative 6 is negative 12. And then negative 3 times negative 6 is positive 18. So this would be plus 18. And now what I need to do is just subtract. And if I have negative 12 plus 18, my answer is going to be positive 6. So positive 6, which equals positive 6 here. So this is correct, and it checks out. Now the check is a little long, but if you want to do it, it's a good method of making sure that your answers are correct. So, ladies and gentlemen, that is it for this class. If you guys have any questions or any doubts, you know where to find me, and we'll see each other in our next class. So, have an awesome rest of your day.